So we're in the section about the 6 perfections, and we talked about generosity, ethical conduct, and fortitude, and we're now on joyous effort. And so yesterday we ended with verse 19, talking about sentient beings' births, going from higher realm to higher realm to lower realm, and so on, and the 4 different alternatives there. And the reason that's under joyous effort is we should exert some joyous effort to go from higher realm to higher realm, and not, higher realm to lower realm, and so on. Okay, and then the next verse is also about joyous effort. So instead of men, maybe human beings. Yeah, unless we could always blame this on men, but we should be gender equal here. Human beings, like mangoes, can be sour yet look ripe. Some, though, look ripe. Some, though they're ripe, look green. And others that are green are sour indeed. Okay, and then the 4th alternative, while others still look ripe, and ripe they are. From this, know how to act. Okay, so here we have the 4 points. This comes a lot. The previous verse had 4 points. This had 4 points. When we compare often 2 things, how we look at them. So here, they're saying human beings are like the mangoes, that are growing on the tree. And so here, an unripe mango is like somebody with a bad intention, and a ripe mango, the unripe mangoes are bad intentions. The ripe mangoes are good intentions. Okay, and then in terms of how they taste, some the action is positive, so they taste good, and others the action is negative, so they taste very bad. Okay, so some people like mangoes. They're sour, so they have bad intention, but they look right. So they look good, kind of their actions look good, but their intention is rotten. Okay, you met people like that? You ever acted like that yourself? Okay, so rotten intention, look good. We get pretty good at that one, yeah. Then the second one, okay, they look ripe, yeah. No, some though their actions are good, they look. No, wait a minute. I'm getting confused here. Okay, so some seem ripe. Their actions are good, but they are unripe because their intention is awful. And some seem unripe because, here they seem unripe because their deeds are very bad, but in fact they look ripe. Their intention is good. Some, though ripe. Okay, so some, though ripe, so their intentions are good, but they look green, meaning their actions don't look so good. Okay, so let's go back to the first one. So somebody who has a bad intention, but wait a minute, some seem ripe, so their deeds are wholesome. Now it does the explanation isn't in accord with the verse. Okay, So if they're sour, their deeds are awful, and they look ripe. So no, they're sour. They have a bad intention, but they look right. So what's an example of somebody with a bad intention but looking good? Yeah, there's somebody who swindles you. Yeah, or yeah, people who seem to be your friends, but they talk about you behind your back. Oh yeah, so someone who has an extramarital affair but appears to be very loyal. Yeah. So you look like you're very nice to your boss.
But they show very
Yeah. Yeah, their motivations to impress the boss, but
when I was Tibet, I did work in a factory to make the carpet.
Mhm.
So when our boss come in, then we show very polite, but
Yeah.
backside we were lovely,
yeah.
talking something bad.
Yeah, that's a very good example
Yeah.
of this one, okay?
So after I came in India and I learned this in Roman University,
Uh-huh.
so I was so regret
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah. It's good when we see ourselves in the teachings, isn't it? You know, it's like the Buddha, points our things out to us. Okay, so then there's some who look ripe. So some, though ripe, so their actions are good, look green. So it looks, so though ripe, their actions are good, they look green. So their intentions. Maybe we should forget about the green and the ripe. Yeah, that's the green and the ripe is very confusing. Okay? So let's just do the four things as we know. Okay, so a bad intention, but they act nice. So we just did that. Okay. Then how about somebody with a bad intention who acts poorly? Yeah, do you know people like that? What are some examples? Okay, yeah, a bully, somebody who wants to harm, and they act in a harmful way.
Bodhisattva, he killed one person to save
Right.
too many people.
Yeah.
So this is a good intention, but his act it
is
is
bad.
to kill some person.
Right. So that's an example of one that we're coming to. Right now we're talking about bad intention and bad action.
Oh.
Okay. But I think we're pretty familiar, bad intention, bad action. Yeah. Okay. Then her example is good intention, bad action. No. It's somebody with a good intention but a bad action. We didn't do that one. Okay. We're forgetting about the ripe and green and sour because I'm not an agriculturalist. Let's deal with the theory. I can't handle mangoes. Okay, so somebody with a good intention, but their action is very poor. What's an example of that? She just gave one. What's another example? So somebody has a good intention to help you, but they aren't very skillful in how they do it. Yeah. What's another example?
People doing research where they want to find a cure for something, but they end up killing animals, for example.
Mm-hmm. Somebody has a good intention, find a cure, but they're killing rats and chimpanzees and all sorts of beings to do that. Okay, how about somebody with a good intention and a good action? Yeah, that's the fourth alternative. What are some examples of that?
His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, somebody like His Holiness. You have a good intention and your actions are actually beneficial. Okay, So which of the four should we? Yeah, we should be like the last one. If you can't be like the last one, then which one should you be like? The third one, good intention, but a poor action. Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, the easiest is a bad intention, but you look good. Yeah. Okay, we're kind of skilled in that one. And even easier than that is bad intention and rotten action too. Yeah. Okay. So so we know what we need to practice. Yeah.
What do you think about the idea of the road to hell is paved in good intention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are good intentions, and then there's the actions are bad. Sometimes the actions are bad. They look bad, but they aren't that bad, But then there's some where it seems like your intention is good, but you're not really looking at the situation clearly, so your mind is obscured by ignorance. So it looks like you have a good intention, but because your mind is quite obscured and you're not really being astute, then the action is actually something negative. But in that case, I would say the intention isn't completely good. Yeah, because the person isn't really paying good intent, paying clear attention to things. Yeah. What do other people think about that? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, that when I think of that saying, what I think of is somebody that's beating their child and saying, I'm doing it for your own good. That's what I think of. The person thinks they have a good intention, but it's not really. Yeah, and they think they're doing something virtuous, but they're not really.
It reminds me of the whole thing that's happening at the border. Those people who really genuinely think that it's a good thing to save our country and protect our whatever.
Uh-huh.
All this good intentions without clearly recognizing what's happening on the living being level.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good example. Yeah. Yeah. Lama Yeshe used to say, when he talked about people who did a lot of negative actions, he would often say, they means well, dear. Yeah. So lots of times it's not like people in their mind think that they're doing harm. They actually, if they were able to assess their own motivation better, they are doing harm, but they think they're not.
Often the soldiers are sent to rescue or fight for freedom in some other country, and they really believe that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they kill and do other things.
Yep, that's another good example. My friend Tenzin Kacha, that some of you know, she was a chaplain at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. So one time I was visiting her and I went there with her. And it was so interesting because it was a Buddhist group, so guys who were interested in Buddhism. And I was curious why they were soldiers, and asked them. And their first thing was, we want to help people. We want to serve our country. We want to protect democracy. We want to protect the world. And we joined the Army because then we're supported. We don't need to think about our income and those kinds of things. We can just focus on doing the deeds we're doing that benefit the country. And, they really had from their side, good motivation. What they were missing in the whole thing is equanimity. Yeah, because their wish to help was partial towards some people and didn't encompass the others. But it was so interesting because many of their ideas, it sounded like people who want to ordain. I want to, I want to be able to focus on benefiting sentient beings and not worry about my food and my livelihood. And yeah.
Venerable Semke, I wonder if I can tell the story about the okra, if you remember that from the Vinaya. Go. I think you might remember. Maybe you've forgotten about it. Anyway, I came up to help cook for the Vinaya. And we had this excessive amount of okra. And we had to keep using it. And even when it got that white, moldy stuff around it, Venerable Semke, and maybe Choni was in on this too, was like, use it. I'm like, ugh. Okay, I'd wash the mold off and I'd use it. Well, one morning I was just like, I cannot serve this again. And I saw the turkeys out the kitchen door. And so I thought, I'm going to give the rest of these to the turkeys. So I had a good intention. I was going to get rid of the lousy okra and feed the turkeys. So I threw it out there for the turkeys, and the turkeys just turned their nose up at
it. Yeah, right. Smart turkeys, huh?
They didn't want it at all. But now I had okra all over outside the kitchen, and I saw Venerable Semke coming, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if she walks and looks down and sees the okra, and I'm going to be in this big trouble. So I like wading through molasses to try and get to her before she saw the okra. And I'm like, Venerable Semke, I've done something I know now I shouldn't have done.
Yeah, you should have. You should have served the okra to the monastics because the turkeys wouldn't eat it.
Right. So I don't know what exactly you were thinking of me in your first few thoughts, but you kindly then, showed me the way. You said, now this food is donated to us, and it isn't up to you what to do with it. Are you remembering any of this? Okay. That's right. So I was drawing the turkeys in. They thought they'd have an easy life just being fed out the back door. And what was the third thing? There were 3 lessons I learned that day. But the third one was that we're very careful here about what we feed the animals and what we put out. And, we wouldn't want to give them fuzzy okra without researching that first. Yes. So, anyway, that's just a little story.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yes. Yeah. I don't remember there being a lot of okra during the program. Okay. Next verse. Okay, so the next verse is about concentration. And, the next few verses are about concentration. And the first one has to do guarding the senses, specifically from others' wives. And this is because they're talking to a bunch of men, but it could be from others, guarding the senses from others' partners, because I don't know. People who has wives and who has husbands nowadays, you don't know. So this will encompass everybody, okay? So do not gaze on other spouses. But if you do, regard them as your parent, your child, or your sibling, depending on their age. Should lust arise, think well. They are by nature unclean filth. Okay? So this verse is going right specifically to our strongest attachment, okay, which is to sex and romantic relationships, okay? So it's saying, don't look at others' partners, yeah? So don't start scanning around and like checking out who's good looking and who's not, and where are they doing their walking meditation so I can bump into them, and who am I going to talk to after retreat? None of that kind of stuff. But if you should happen to look at somebody and your mind starts getting active about that, then instead of looking at them as a desirable potential partner, look at them as you would your parent, as your child, or as a sibling, And so it's taking for granted that generally people don't get turned on looking at their parents or their children or their siblings. Nowadays, you don't know, but, it's kind of assuming. And so that could be helpful to somebody, or just, that's my parent, my child, or my sibling. They're even if they are good looking, tell this to Donald Trump, they aren't available. Yeah. I can't believe what he said about his daughter. Okay, but should lust arise, even you look at them as, your parent, your child, or your sibling, then really use your wisdom and pay attention to what their body is. And so their body is exactly like our body. It's basically a filth factory. Okay? And when we hear this, we often go, oh, no, isn't that a bit extreme? Because we grew up in the body is beautiful era, and, people feel so guilty about their body, and they feel so guilty about sex, and this is all okay, and it's all healthy. But now Buddha's saying the same thing we grew up with. Yeah. And we impute sinful. Yeah. He's not saying it's sinful. He's just saying, look at what the body is. But we grew up in, many people anyway, grew up in a culture or a religion where, what do they say? Sex is bad, sex is dirty, but you save it for the person you love the most. Yeah? So people grew up with that kind of mentality. Then to overcome that, there was, the whole 60s, 70s, my generation thing of if it feels good, do it. Okay? And so then some people, when they come across this in Buddhism, they really have a strong reaction. I remember I was teaching the 4 establishments of mindfulness at my Tripa one weekend, and I taught this. And these are people who've been studying the Dharma for a while. And, they were getting ready to pull out their tomatoes to throw at me. Yeah. They did not like what I was saying at all. And I was just saying, look, I'm just teaching what the Buddha taught, So the thing is, if you look at what the body is accurately, this isn't really an exaggeration. Okay? If you peel away the skin, what's under the skin? Yeah? Is that attractive? Yeah. If you had the person's skeleton, if you had their muscles, yeah. Maybe their esophagus. Yeah. Their eyeballs, what is it? Your eyes are like diamonds and your teeth are like pearls. So you put the eyeballs out there and then you put all the 30-something teeth out there. Then what do you think? Attractive? Yeah? Our eyeballs rolling around like marbles? oh, your hair is so beautiful. Then, like my story from this morning, you put the hair out there and somebody goes, ooh. Yeah. Your skin is so soft. So you take the skin. There's the pile of the skin. You want to touch that? Is that nice? Yeah. Maybe their liver. You wrote a song about this.
When I think of your red liver, it kind of makes me quiver.
Do you remember all the lyrics? It was one of the skits we were doing, and she wrote a whole song about this.
Oh, baby, baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you remember it? Yeah. But I mean, yeah. You look at what the body is, and if you just took the body and opened it up and laid it out there, you know, we aren't going to go, oh, you're so gorgeous. You know, it's like, ew, get me out of here. And that's the reality of our body, isn't it? You know, it's not just other people's body, it's this body. If we look, every single orifice in our body, what comes out of it, we have to clean away. Yeah? From the stuff in your eyes to your earwax to your bad breath, yeah, to your perspiration, yeah, and then everything else. Nothing that our body produces is attractive, is it? We have to clean it. Yeah, we're constantly cleaning our body. Yeah, people spit. You have a cup full of spit. But you want to kiss that person. You want to kiss that person. But the cup full of spit, you don't want to have anything to do with. Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it, how much resistance we have. And in Precious Garland, when Nagarjuna talks about this, he says, you know, we all want to realize emptiness. Yeah. Emptiness is difficult to realize. You can't see it with your eyes, or, you know, you need to understand it at first by a lot of reasoning. It's not something easy to understand. But Nagarjuna says, the nature of our body being foul, that appears to our senses. It's very easy to understand. And yet, we have a hard time holding it in mind. We might do the meditation, but then as soon as we stand up, it's like, oh, that person is really good looking. Yeah. So we have a lot of resistance. We can't hold the foulness of the body in our mind for very long, even though that is so much easier to understand and realize than emptiness. But we don't want to meditate on the foulness of the body. We want to meditate on high teachings. Yeah. So Nagarjuna was kind of putting us in our place. Mm-hmm.
When you were teaching that section in Precious Garland, one thing that stuck with me was that, you know, we have a shower and we think that we're clean, but then we have to wash the towels that we dry our clean bodies with because it still gets dirty. So are we really ever clean?
Yeah.
Our perception of ourselves and reality is just really skewed.
Yeah.
Several years back, before coming to the Abbey, I was infatuated with a person. And this person had, I thought, beautiful eyes. And when I started to look at, okay, what is it that I like about these eyes. I actually did what you said. I actually took the eyes out and put them on the table and just visualized looking at those eyes and thinking, okay, are they still that beautiful? It's like, okay, no. But I had to do it repeatedly, but it worked, and then do that with other, body parts. And it just really brings the point home.
Yeah.
It was very, very useful.
It is. It's very useful. So, and the reason this is in the concentration chapter is because when you try to meditate, we have a gazillion distractions that come, and this kind of attachment can be one of the strongest ones. It's Shantideva talks about it in chapter 8. There was one place when he was invited to teach chapter 8, and I heard that in the West, His Holiness, was invited to teach chapter 8 in the West. And I heard that the organizers asked him not to teach the first part of the chapter, which talks about the body being foul. Can you imagine that? He taught it anyway. It's there, and it's important for us to understand. So it doesn't mean the body is bad and sinful and having that connotation, but it just means let's look at the body for what it is and not get infatuated with it and distracted by it, such that our attempts to purify our mind and create virtue and listen to teachings, is impeded by this kind of attachment.
What I think is that we don't understand how much we are attached to that body. We don't get it at all.
Yeah.
And that's when we start doing just oh my God, you realize how much you have attachment to it.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's really like zero understanding.
That they'll listen to it on the recording. Huh? Oh, okay. Yeah. Because otherwise the teaching becomes for the people at home stretched out in their aircon room. And not for the people sitting here in a hot meditation hall. And who's the live audience? Who are we teaching? We're teaching the people here, and the people at home, they can endure. But I think you're absolutely right, and this is precisely why we have so much resistance to hearing about this, because we're actually very attached to this body. And so at the time of death, being attached to this body is really bad news, because it just, brings up all this craving and fear, because we don't have any choice at the time of death. We're separating from it.
Maybe this isn't the right conclusion here, but it makes me think if it's not beautiful when we take it apart and put it out there, where is the beauty?
Yeah.
And then it becomes a matter of seeing that your mind is projecting it.
Yeah.
I find that extremely useful.
Yeah. That's exactly the point. That's the point, Julie. Yeah. Our mind is projecting the beauty. Yeah. So just look at the body, realize it for what it is. Don't shy away from that. And it's very helpful, if your mind's starting to get really distracted. Yeah. Do this meditation. Very, very helpful. Okay. Or even if you find that, you're having a lot of fear of separating from your own body at death, just think of what this body is. It's like, what do I want to cling on to at the time of death? My intestines? Yeah, my pancreas? What about this body am I so attached to? Okay. So in one way, we look at the body like that. We're not attached to it. Another way, when we talk about having a precious human life, there we see that having a human body comes along with having human intelligence, and that our human intelligence is very important for understanding the Dharma. And so we need to protect our human body and keep it clean and keep it healthy, not so we can be infatuated with attachment for it or lust for somebody else's body, but so that we can use it to practice the Dharma. So there's different ways we look at the body according to different meditations. Yeah. Okay, then verse 22. So this is about guarding the senses from other desires. So guard this fickle mind as you would do your learning, children, treasure, or your life. Renounce all sensual pleasure as if it were a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire. Okay, so guard our fickle mind. Do you think your mind is fickle? No. Yeah. But look at our mind, it's actually quite fickle. We change our mind all the time. What we like changes all the time. What we want changes all the time. What we think is nice changes all the time. Yeah. We're quite fickle and we're quite emotional, but we don't like to own it. Yeah, we like to present ourselves as being cool, in control, unmovable. But inside, it's like a pot boiling. Okay. Okay, so guard this fickle mind, because our mind's unreliable sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. You get up in the morning, I have a determination to do this. Today I am not going to eat any sugar. I'm really going to take care of my health. I'm not going to eat any sugar. Strong determination in the morning. You go to breakfast. How about pancakes? How about a muffin? Yeah. Our mind is fickle. It's, out the window. Or you eat one of those kind of gooey bars that, or some of the bars that they advertise as being healthy but are actually full of all sorts of stuff that are naturally unhealthy. But they're natural. They're naturally unhealthy. Okay. So protect this mind, because our mind moves from object to object, constantly. And every object our mind lands on, it's so easy to generate a affliction in relationship to it. Because we immediately start saying attractive, unattractive, which leads to pull it this way, push it that way. Okay, which leads to attachment, aversion, anger, which leads to acting out of attachment or acting out of aversion and anger. Okay, so it says, guard the mind in the same way as you would protect what you have learned from being forgotten. Okay, so remember how your senses are. Protect that awareness. Guard the mind like a beloved child. How do you take care of a beloved child? Yeah, you watch it. And you watch it closely to make sure it doesn't get in any trouble and stick its fingers in the electric socket or something like that. So we watch our senses in that same way. Guard our mind as we would a valuable treasure. Okay, so if you're traveling, or if you have at home a valuable treasure, yeah, you protect it, you watch over it, you don't just let it kind of float around. Okay, and guard the mind as if it were your cherished life. So it's important. Okay, so so protecting the mind means having, you have to start off with a way of being in the world that says, I'm not going to let my senses look all over the place. Yeah. And so you try, and, not all the time, but sometimes walking with your eyes down. I mean, of course, you have to look around, otherwise, you're going to fall off the curb. But, you're not looking in all the stores when you walk down the street. Yeah, you're not looking at all the people and assessing how they look and whether they're attractive or not. You're not looking at all the houses that you drive by and thinking, oh, I would love to have a house like that. Okay. So you protect the mind in that way. And that gives you a lot more concentration, both off the cushion and then, of course, on the cushion. Because then when you're on the cushion, you aren't remembering all this stuff that you saw. Okay. And then renounce sensual pleasure. So our attitude towards sensual pleasure should be as if it were a viper. If you see a snake, you don't go towards it, do you? It's like, okay, careful. As if it were poison. Yeah, you don't drink it. You don't imbibe. As if it were a weapon threatening you. You don't go close. Or a foe. Or fire. So we keep our distance. Yeah. When there's things that cause a lot of sense desire to arise, we practice keeping our distance from those things. Yeah. So some people say, oh, then your life is going to be so boring. That sounds so, what's the word? Unstimulating. So, what's the word? What? Deadening. Deadening. So puritanical. You just sound like you guys don't appreciate life at all. Yeah. And that's not it. The idea is not to go through life not appreciating things. The idea is to go through life appreciating what is worthy of appreciation and not getting distracted by things that are not worthy of appreciation. Okay? And not getting distracted by things that make a lot of afflictive emotions arise in our mind, or a lot of wrong views arise in our mind. Yeah. Because we're aware that our mind is very fickle and very uncontrolled. So we watch over it. So there's a quotation from a sutra here. Throughout, from very first to very last, virtue is like a mother, ever fair. So why do childish beings abandon it and lust for all the things that they desire? Okay? So virtue is like something that's actually quite beautiful. But childish beings don't look at the beauty of virtue and just lust after what they desire. Yeah. And this is what our society is all about, isn't it? Going out and consuming more than our fair share of the world's resources. Yeah. And that's like after 9/11, that was the advice the president gave us. Get angry and go shopping. Wasn't it? Going shopping is good for the economy. If you want to be a good American, go shopping. Yeah? For what purpose? to have a good economy, to make more things that we don't need, that are going to, wind up in landfills or pollute the ocean or whatever. Yeah. But, this is the power of attachment and, afflictive desire is, the mind is just crazy. Yeah. Okay, next verse. So this is about, this verse is about, getting rid of attachment by understanding the way it generally functions, okay? So this is a very good analogy. It comes in the Pali Sutras as well. If you've ever been to India and you've met lepers, yeah, you know that their limbs are eaten off, and they have, it's very painful. What the cause of leprosy is very painful, and so sometimes what they do is they put their sores near fire, and it burns the skin, and that alleviates the pain from what they're experiencing. But it burns them and causes more harm too. Okay. So it's, what people do when they're very unhappy, it's kind of like people who cut themselves. Yeah. You're emotionally very unhappy, and cutting yourself relieves the stress or the unhappiness temporarily. But you're cutting yourself. Okay? So this is the thing with leprosy. It's like drinking salt water. You're thirsty, you're trying to find a solution. You drink the salt water, you become more thirsty. Okay? So a person with leprosy, consumed by germs, will stand before the fire for comfort's sake, because that fire that singes their skin relieves the pain of the leprosy. But oh, you're right. Oh, well, I'm on this verse. Can we just finish this verse? Then I'll go back. Okay. Because you've got to keep this image of the leper in your mind. Okay. So they're going near the fire for the sake of comfort. It's burning their skin, and they still find no long-term relief. Yeah. So know the same is true for those attached to the pleasures they desire. Okay? So when we are very attached to certain pleasures, we go after them and after them and after them, and we enjoy them, but we're never satisfied. We always want more. We always want better. And in the process of going after the objects that we want the pleasure from, we get involved sometimes in very painful situations. Okay. Shantideva goes through this whole thing, chapter 8, especially looking for sex, talking about what people do for sexual satisfaction. And then, you enjoy it for a few minutes, and then there's like all these problems that come with it. Yeah. And yet people don't realize that. And we're so captivated by sense pleasure, which is so temporary. It really doesn't last very long. Yeah. You have chocolate and you put it in your mouth, and already you experience pleasure, but with every passing moment, the chocolate's getting consumed, and you're going towards being without the pleasure of the chocolate. So whatever you're grabbing onto, Yeah, you want to be with a certain person because they're so wonderful. You want a certain something to eat. You want to go to a certain place. Yeah, whatever it is, you know, we go through a lot of headaches to get the pleasure, and then the pleasure's very temporary. You know? And what the Buddha's trying to do is get us to see if we work with our mind and make our mind peaceful, then we aren't dependent on external things for pleasure. We can have that peace and a different kind of pleasure inside of ourselves. Yeah, without being always like this towards everything outside, and then getting all the problems that come with it. So I always say, if you have a car, yeah, your car, oh, this beautiful red hot sports car, yeah, fantastic. I love my hot red, hot red, culpa mea culpa, red hot red sports car. Okay, I love it. But what do you have to do to get your sports car? You go in credit card debt. What does credit card debt do for you? Makes you worry, makes you anxious. Yeah. But you're willing to go through the worry and the anxiety for the thrill of driving your hot red sports car. So it's very interesting to look. And when we were just talking before about a bad motivation but looking good, this is a lot of what we do to get sense pleasure. Okay? So, well, you know how it is. Like, you want more of the food that's on the table, but you have to look polite. You shouldn't look greedy. Yeah. So you offer it to everybody else, hoping that they say no. Yeah. And then they take a little bit, because they don't want to look greedy either. And then, then you just take the rest. Yeah. So we save our reputation. We look like we're being generous and caring for other people. Yeah. But we really don't want them to take more of the food because we want it. Yeah. You don't do that? It's only me? Really? Am I letting you know too much about how my mind works? Oh no, my reputation's gone. Yeah, but look sometimes what we do to get the things we desire. And yeah, as soon as you get your new smartphone, you have smartphone hell. As soon as you get an air conditioner, you have air conditioner hell. It's too loud. Yeah. Then we have to return it. Then you have to deal with the manufacturer and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So, yeah. The sense pleasures never satisfy. They never satisfy. They always leave us wanting, longing, needing more. Okay. So that was verse 26. Now we're going back to verse 23. We're following things in order. Okay. So verse 23 is about the fault of not controlling our senses. So the pleasures we desire will bring us ruin. They're like the kimba fruit, the Buddha said. Eschew them, it's their chains that tightly bind the worldly in samsara's prison house. Okay, so somebody may say, but all these pleasures make me happy. What's wrong with that? Sounds like a reasonable question. Actually, there's nothing wrong with pleasure. There's nothing wrong with happiness. The problem is the desire and the attachment for that feeling and for the object that we think gives us that feeling. Okay. And so there's something called a kimba fruit, which grows in the western continent of Aparo Godanaya. Remember that from the mandala offering? Okay, so there's this fruit, the kimba fruit. Its skin is attractive, but it is unpleasant inside, which means it makes you want to throw up. Durian. What? Durian. Yes. Durian! You got it. Durian tastes good. What? I'm defending the durian. Oh. That's your Singapore patriotism. Do you like durian? Oh. For those of you who don't know what durian is, it's like the kimba fruit, except for those few people who think it's good. It's slimy. The texture is slimy, and it stinks to high heaven. Totally stinks. Yeah, our Singaporean friends always want to, let us take you out so you can have some durian. So the first time, okay, I'm game for it. And then that's the only time, One time with durian, basta finito. Okay. So the kimba fruit, its skin is attractive, but it's unpleasant inside. Or it tastes delicious, but it makes you sick to your stomach afterwards. Yeah, we've had that experience, haven't we? You go out to eat somewhere, really nice food, and then you go home and you feel so sick and you're throwing up. Okay, so that's the fault of not controlling the senses, okay? We run around looking for something and experience some pleasure from it immediately, but the long-term effect of that attachment to the thing is pain, is suffering. Okay. Do you have examples from your life of things that you've chased after that seem wonderful at the beginning, and then boyfriends? Sugar. Oh, sugar is good. No, you think it causes? Yeah, you have your sugar rush, and then your sugar letdown. Yeah. Also, just friends in general, you were saying, or what were you saying? Oh, boyfriends. Yeah, yeah. Boyfriends, pain in the neck sometimes. Yeah, they're so wonderful to start with. Yeah, girlfriends are the same. We got to be gender equal. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, romantic relationships, they start out so wonderful, don't they? And then they change. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's another example. We go all out for what's fashionable. Yeah. And then it changes and you don't like it the next year. Hmm? Yeah. The grass is greener on the other side. Yeah. Gotta go there. Things are better there. We call it the chanting is better on the other side of the hall. Okay. Gotta go somewhere else. Yeah. My happiness is there. Okay. Then 24. So this is praising those who are able to control their senses. Of he whose fickle senses are controlled, these six that never cease to dart at things. And he who's fought and conquered many foes, the first is truly brave, the wise have said. There's got to be a better translation if this is a text. Somebody told me this was the good one, but I don't. Okay, so our sense organs, the five external ones, and then the mental. Yeah. Okay. So they're uncontrolled. They're always wandering here, there. They're unstable. They make our mind flit from here and there. They cause, afflictions to arise in our mind. But somebody here, when it's saying who's fought and conquered many foes, they often use the imagery of battle, I think, in Dharma, often because, they're talking mostly to men at the olden times, and I think men like that image. A lot of people don't like it so much now, okay? But the idea is that if your desire is your foe, and you've been able to conquer your foe, okay, then, having the mind that can conquer this desire, this distracted mind, this mind that wants this and wants that, then that kind of person is brave. That person's the hero because they're able to manage their senses. They're not out of control, just, grasping after the next fleeting thing that comes by. Okay. Sometimes we know people, and this is kind of what their lives are like, always on the lookout for the next thing to buy, or always on the lookout for the next place to go, or always on the lookout for the next attractive person to have a relationship with. And then, mind very uncontrolled. So here it's praising somebody who has that control because, then they can really steer their mind in a good direction. Okay, then 24. So we're catching up to where we were. Yeah, we did 24. That's what I said. So now we're on 25, right? Okay, good. Okay, so this again is talking about women, but it should be talking about men and anybody, okay? So getting rid of attachment by fully recognizing the chief source of desire in the world is the desire for sexual or romantic relationships. Yeah. So regard a young person's body on its own. Yeah, so take any young person's body. They always, when you talk about the bodhisattvas, you talk about them as 16-year-old youths. That's the age in which they're very, supposedly beautiful. Okay. But if you look at anybody's body when they're young, yeah, the smell is so foul. Not if you look, but if you smell their body. Okay. Its openings 9, it says we have 9 openings. So it's like they're like a pot of filth because everything that comes out is blech. Insatiable, even though it's filthy, we keep on craving sex with it. It's like you don't just have it once, you got to do it again and again and again and again. And yet, what are you holding on to? Something that's a manufacturing, a factory of filth. Okay, so it's a factory of filth. We're insatiable. It's clothed with skin. The skin covers up all the ugly stuff. Yeah, until the skin itself becomes ugly. Yeah, that's why young people seem attractive. And then, as you age and your skin is not so nice, then, well, you're just over the hill. Okay. And then even if you're looking at somebody's adornments, Yeah. Oh, their glasses are so sexy. Look at these, you know, or what they wear, or the kind of aftershave or perfume they use, you know, something that's attached to the body, and you say, oh, well, that's so desirable. Well, I don't know. If you haven't had a body of that scent, a bottle of that scent right in front of you, are you going to get turned on? Yeah. So, you know, the sound of their voice is like the violins in the heavenly realm, you know, until they start swearing at you. Okay. So it's saying, you know, just be realistic. Don't let the mind create all these fantasies that actually cause you a lot of trouble and get you involved in so many destructive actions. Yeah, so many destructive actions. Okay. Then that's followed by the verse about the leper. Okay. So you have some verses about sex, and then you think about the leper. And they all have to do with the body. Okay. It kind of wakes us up about what the body is. Okay. So I think that's okay for today, huh? Your eyes are like diamonds, your teeth are like pearls. Your skin is soft like turkey feathers. Really, this is a very good thing. In the springtime, you watch the turkeys when they're mating. Yeah? They are out of their minds. And they're I mean, the males, and they're all puffed up with their red thing here and their blue thing there, and putting their feathers out. They think they're beautiful like peacocks, but they're only turkeys. Yeah? And all the female turkeys, it's hilarious you watch, because the guys are like strutting around with their feathers and poof tough, you know. And the female turkeys, they're just, you know, pecking for food. Yeah, it's like, who's that? You know, what's happening to those guys, you know? Let's peck some food. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, every year. Every year it's the same. So it's very interesting, you know, to watch animals and think, how are we different? Yeah, how are we different?